Instagram. Hello, YouTubers. My name is Darci Legg, and I am so glad you are here today with me watching this. I'd like to share with you something called the Mesa Proxy process. And this is the last process of the soul retrieval. But before I do, I'd like to remind you, if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat box so I could answer your questions. I'd love to answer questions for you. I know you can't do that on Instagram, but for those of you that are YouTubers, leave them in the chat box and I will be happy to answer any questions for you. Also, subscribe to my channel if you like what you're hearing, and thank you very much. I would appreciate it. So let's talk about the Mesa Proxy process. And again, this is the very last process of what we were talking about, the soul retrieval. My previous videos talked about the soul retrieval process, and yesterday I put one about when I was doing the soul retrieval. I went into 4 different caves. I went into the cave of the wounds, grace, contracts, and treasures. That sound you're hearing is a airplane. You'll hear quite a bit. There is a Air Force base close to here, and they're very active today for some reason. Okay, so back to the Mesa Proxy process. So that once I go into those 4 chambers and gather up what I talked about yesterday, gathered up what I did, I come back up to the client, and the client's just laying there and meditating. And then I will blow the soul part into the client's chakra. Usually it'll be the chakra that I am illuminating or clearing out and doing energy work on. I'll take the rock off that chakra and I'll blow the soul part black into that chakra. Whatever gift I bring back, I will blow back into that chakra also. And if I bring back a spirit animal, I will blow that back into that chakra also for that client. So let's talk about the Mesa Proxy. And this is the part where we discuss with the client, or I'll discuss with the client the purpose of everything that I brought back. And it comes in 4 different parts also. So the first part is the soul part that I talk about. And I'll tell you about one case that I did several months back. So one case that I did, I brought back the soul part, and the soul part was a little girl for this particular client. So what we did is we discussed the soul part, and the purpose of this soul part for this little girl was the little girl wanted the client to be safe. She wanted the client to be protected, and she wanted this client to have fun. So those were the stipulations for coming back and being with this particular client. So the first one was the soul part. So a lot of times, remember how I talked about yesterday, how a lot of times the soul will negotiate before they come back, or they have stipulations before they come back, or sometimes they refuse to come back at all. And they won't always come back and go back and reintegrate into the soul. So that was part of her negotiation, was she wanted to be safe, and she wanted to make sure the client was safe and protected, this particular client, and that she had fun. And the client agreed, so she reintegrated back into the client's body. So the second part, did you have any questions about the soul part and integrating back into the body. Type them in the chat box if you had any questions about that. Okay. Well, if you could think of any questions later on that you want to, you're always welcome to contact me at my website, and I'll leave it down below. It's Darci's Healing Touch. And if you could think of a question after this video, you could either leave it down below, or you could contact me at my website, and I would be happy to answer any questions there also. I will leave it down in the chat box. It's also down in the description. There we go. Okay. So we talked about the soul part being integrated back into the body. And I've had that happen to me, the soul part integrated back into my body, and it feels like a whoosh of wind or air coming back into the body. And when I was laying on the table when it happened to me, and I could feel it physically move into my body and spread throughout my whole body when it happened to me. So the second part that we talk about is the gifts. And the gift is usually significant to that client alone. And we talked about where we receive that gift at. And it's a tool that's used to help the client. It's usually related to, the trauma or something to help the client with the issue of what the reason the soul left in the first place. So in this particular one that I was talking about earlier with a little girl, the gift was a hand mirror. And then what we did for the Mesa Proxy process is we went ahead and we imagined that we had the hand mirror, and we asked, what is the purpose of this? How are you going to help me? What do you have to tell me? We asked the hand mirror these questions. And then the hand mirror actually gave us the messages. It told us that it gave the client the messages, for example, that she was invisible in the past, and that this mirror was going to help her see herself and become more visible. And that was the purpose of the hand mirror, was to help her become more visible and that kind of information. So we had the soul part for number 1, the gifts for number 2. Any questions about gifts? We have all sorts of things for gifts. Like I said, I know one client had been given lipstick at one time as a gift, and being told she needed to upkeep her appearance a little bit better. I had been given a shell as a gift before, a seashell, and I don't remember what the purpose of that was, but all sorts of things as gifts. You can get anything as a gift. The you really need to figure out what the purpose of the gift is. It's usually telling you something that you need to upkeep, something that you need to do. Okay, so the third thing is the new contract. And I talked about the contract yesterday. Now, this client's contract was I am not safe. So, what I usually have the client do, and I'm not sure what other people, I know what I've had other people have me do, but what I had the client, most of my clients do is I'll have them write on a sticky note, I am not safe, and then I'll have them rewrite their contract. So I'll have them cross it out and then rewrite it. And then when they rewrite it, I will have them void out their contract and rewrite it, and then I'll have them put it somewhere where they could see it every day, so they get to integrate that into their system. And it usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks to integrate that new contract into the system. So this client decided to rewrite their contract to say that I am safe, valued, and wanted, is how she rewrote that contract. So she voided the first one, crossed it out, and rewrote the second one, and then put it on her. I don't know if she put it on her mirror, where she put it, but she put it somewhere to where she could see it every day and integrate it into her system. That's number 3, writing the new contracts. And then number 4 was the power animal. So the power animal is usually I retrieve the power animal with the gifts, and it could be any animal. We get all sorts of animals for the power animal. For this particular client, it was an ostrich, and I never know what I'm going to get. That's why it always shocks me. I'm like, an ostrich? Okay, I got an ostrich. And so we'll ask the ostrich, what do you have to teach us? And they always have an amazing lesson to teach us. So for this particular client, the lesson the ostrich had to teach us was that she is bigger than life. She didn't give herself enough credit for how amazing of a person that she is. And just like an ostrich is the biggest of birds, this person represented that same as the ostrich. And that's the reason the ostrich was there, to remind her that she is an amazing person and she is bigger than life. So we had those 4 things that we discussed. And of course, if anything else comes up, we'll discuss that too. But those are the 4 things that we do discuss for the Mesa Proxy process. So thank you so much for listening and watching. I appreciate it. And supporting me. And thank you for subscribing. If you learned something and you want to share this, please share it with somebody. And keep on sparkling.